Welcome to the Conversations with Cool People podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Absolute Natural Laundry Detergent, specifically designed for athletic garments, but gentle enough to use on all fabrics. Give stains and odor the good, clean fight with Absolute Natural Fiber Laundry Detergent. Absolutely safe in all washing machines. Absolutely safe on all fabrics. Absolutely effective in eliminating tough odors in all of your laundry. There's only one name in effective all-natural laundry detergent, and that's Absolute. Be clean. Absolute is available for purchase on Amazon in the link provided in the description below, and free shipping for all Amazon Prime members. This podcast is also brought to you by National Discount Merchant Services. Accept credit cards simply. Conversations with Cool People has partnered with National Discount Merchant Services to offer the guaranteed lowest rates, advanced payment technology, and 24/7 premier support 365 days out of the year. Pick a package and get started today and take your business to the next level with National Discount Merchant Services. Support this podcast and all future episodes by subscribing and using the links provided below to support the people who support us. I want to thank you for taking your time to join us on this conversation, and we hope that you enjoy the podcast. Okay, Blur. You were saying Blur.
Oh yeah, just so I love that animation style though that they did, and the fact that they had that whole backstory with made up characters and
Speaking of backstories and made up characters, you were just saying you saw Black Panther.
Yeah.
Pretty recently. You liked it.
I loved it. I did. It had one big hole for me though.
First off, are you a big Marvel fan?
Yeah, not really.
No?
I mean, I like it. I like it like I like any other superhero. I'm a little superheroed out, so that speaks well for Black Panther that I still liked it.
You're what? Too many movies?
There's just too many superhero movies and shows. It's ridiculous.
It's pretty incredible.
But it's not just that. It's that I want people to come up with original material. Like so many of these movies and shows coming out are based on already existing concepts and characters, and I want somebody to come up with new things. Let's move it forward. Yeah, I think because it comes down to, okay, are you going to finance that? It's like they want something that's already established and it's already made money. Right.
And that's kind of, what my opinion is that it seemed like music videos were getting there too. Like music videos seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like they're making a comeback right now. We're starting to see really innovative and great music videos again because it seems like it's not as expensive to produce because anyone can really put something together.
Considerably cheaper, yeah.
Right. But before this time, once the music industry was taking a real hit, like I don't think, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about, of how technology has affected the music industry and the production and the output.
Sure.
Because I remember when Napster came out, the big argument, this is going to kill the music industry. It's going to kill the music's still here. And I think what it was such a shock to the system that the industry had to kind of scramble and figure out how to play catch up now. Because a lot of the distribution avenues of the 80s and even early mid-90s, they're diminished now with Napster, with online distribution, to where now YouTube's stars can distribute on their own.
Sure.
So, I mean, with your background, I mean, you were a member of Color Me Bad when were you considered one of the founding members?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you guys experienced success on the highest level at one point, and you've been around to see what the music industry was during that time. To where, I mean, especially for R&B, what a heyday, what a real breakout for, big acts, even more than, the 60s, where you can say that was the original Renaissance age for R&B music. But man, once the 90s hit, you had hip hop coming out, R&B was taking on a new face, and you were a part of that. And then to see where it is now with once the millennium hit, you had all these like Hype William high-tech videos. Then at some point they fell off. Like we haven't seen videos, and now they've come back. How do you think technology has played a role in the music industry?
Oh man, it's changed it completely. everybody in the music business is still trying to get their head around it because it's such a moving target all the time. It's so ever changing. 3-4 years ago, Vine was huge. Vine's not even here now. Shawn Mendes broke off of Vine, had 3 million followers by the time he was signed. It's not even there now. It's crazy how quickly that stuff changes. When you talk about Napsters and MP3s, man, that just about destroyed the foundation of what the current music business is. And what saved them is streaming. But streaming is very imperfect right now because they're not paying writers anywhere near what they should. Artists aren't even getting paid what they should when the record companies own the master. Record companies are cleaning up because they have most of the master ownership. Master owners make real money off of streaming. Nobody else really does. But when songwriters aren't getting paid for streaming, that's only going to last so long.
But wasn't that the big argument of back in the day? I mean, for instance, you take TLC.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their second album, Crazy Sexy Cool, groundbreaking, one of the largest selling female group of all time at that time, broke. So it's like the more things change, the more things stay the same, right?
I think there's a difference though, because that's unfortunately always going to be there. And I don't know all the specifics of their situation, but I imagine what probably happened is they probably signed a production deal with the manager. Signed away a bunch of their rights, because they didn't know better and they're young and just really hungry and ambitious and they were taken advantage of. And unfortunately, that's always going to be a hurdle. But this is a little different because you can do all your business the right way with an attorney with proper representation and still, as a songwriter, you're not getting paid on streaming. You see what I'm saying? So you don't even have the ability to protect yourself yet because the government hasn't caught up with it. They're beginning to start to catch up with it. And I think in about 2 to 5 years, it'll be a completely different model, and it'll be interesting to see how the major record companies adapt to that. Because right now they're cleaning up with streaming. Cleaning up.
The record companies?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're cleaning up. And, Spotify's not even profitable.
For the artist? Or
for Spotify.
For Spotify.
No, they haven't turned a profit yet.
Yeah, see, and I never. Well, what about Tidal? Are they pretty much in the same boat?
Same, all of them.
All of them
are, yeah. In fact, Jimmy Iovine just came out with an interesting article where he's talking about he doesn't know if Apple's going to figure out how to make Apple Music a profitable venture.
Really, when Jimmy Iovine is saying he doesn't know, that he doesn't have the answer to how to make something profitable in the music industry. Yeah, there's a problem. That's so surprising to hear because, it just seems like anyone with a cell phone camera, a microphone, it's like they don't need a distribution deal.
No, I mean, but here's the thing is that let's say you're a talented person and you want to put music out there yourself. You can absolutely do that. And there's a variety of options. There's companies now set up for you to put your music out independently. And if they love you, they'll even front you some money to help you hire PR and, maybe shoot a video and get some visuals going and maybe even a small amount of money to start getting out there on the road. But there's so many people putting music out at the same time. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of artists putting music out, in a given month, that the question becomes, how do I figure out how to stick my head above this and get noticed? So, the era of like the late 90s that you were referring to, you could shoot a video. Everybody couldn't shoot a video. You could have a really great professional sounding recording that's with a top producer with a great studio, and then it's mixed and it's mastered, and it gives you this ridiculous competitive advantage over anybody that's doing it independently, right? So it narrowed it, all that stuff narrowed it down. Then when a record company really believed in an artist, they would get it on MTV, TRL, and you get it on BET, whether it was Video Soul or 106 in Park, right? Or it could be VH1, like, I forgot what it was called, but like their Artist of the Month type of program. And you have these...
Or TRL.
You have these ways of manipulating, the audience, like controlling the flow of product so that... That's okay. Controlling the flow of product so that they only have so much to choose from. And if you're one of the 30 things that are coming out, you're probably going to make a whole lot of money. Now you do it on your own. are you able to get on those important Apple playlists? Are you able to get on those important Spotify playlists? Are you getting all those smaller blogs to pick you up so that you can end up on Hype Machine? Are you getting, how do you get your views of your video up? Is it like sorry, this is,
oh, sorry.
It's, how do you get the views up of your video? When there's so much other product coming at people all the time. And I've seen really talented people with great songs just come and go. Nobody even noticed all the time now. It's really shocking. So you have to look for a competitive advantage, and that's a lot harder to find and manipulate now than it used to be.
So the problems are different, but the problems are still there.
Yeah.
Because now there's this huge tsunami of talent now that is being seen, but now everyone's sharing that stage.
Yeah.
To where, you still have, the more things change, the more things stay the same, right?
Sure. And you have like styles of music that kind of come in all together, and it's kind of a bubble. It's a wave. So when you're talking about R&B, well, R&B is having an incredible renaissance right now with artists like SZA and Daniel Caesar. Started with Frank Ocean and Childish Gambino and Kendrick, and now you have like Daniel Caesar and Her and Lucky Day, like all of these really great new incredible, and like the music is incredible. It's advanced changes, and it's great singers and great musicians, and people are buying into it, and they're actually killing it on the festival circuits too. So that's exciting when you see that kind of thing happen, because we've gone through this thing where there's incredible dance music, but there's a lot of dance music out there that makes people that aren't into it scratch their heads, almost like when you walk into a modern art museum, you see an orange square and you go, why is that in here with Picasso?
Right. Right.
But it's nice to see a style of music coming in and doing really well with the consumer that's actually great. It's great art. Yeah. So it's an exciting time for R&B right now.
So you were the vice president of A&R at Island Records, and I was asking you, I've known people, I'm so-and-so's A&R. What exactly is A&R?
Well, you're right. It is kind of a vague title. It stands for artist and repertoire, but it's a hard job. I think as a writer and as a producer and as an artist, like every other artist and writer, I complained about A&R people all the time.
Because you had to go through them.
I didn't know how hard it was, and then I started doing it, and it's really time and energy consuming. You have to. It's chess. It's not checkers, and you have to. It consists of scoping out talent out there, figuring out who you want to sign to the label you work for. So once you sign somebody, there's going to be a financial investment for the entire company. So there's a responsibility, because the whole marketing department and the radio promotion department and all these different departments are looking at you like, please give us something great that we can work on. So it's pressure. And then the higher ups, they want something that's going to sell, and it's become a research game recently, because you have all of these analytics that you can read online. You can wait and then pick something up as a record company that looks like it's already moving, and you study the rate at how fast it's growing. And if it's growing at a fast rate early on, you might still be able to get them without having to give them a lot. That's the game on the label side. And the game on the artist side is do as much as you can on your own to create leverage, so that when you do a deal with the major, if that's what you want to do, in order to take advantage of their relationship with radio to get you on the radio, or to get bigger marketing budgets and all that kind of thing. When you do get to that point, if you've built yourself up to a certain point, you have more leverage. You can get a better deal with them and retain some ownership of your masters and that type of thing.
So once again, it seems like technology it's here, and it plays a role now on both sides. It's like you guys now have tools to see what their social media presence is, and how many clicks are getting, or how many views and all that good stuff.
Sure.
So you get to have something scientific, I guess, as scientific as it gets, to base decisions off of, to whether or not money gets poured into an act or not.
Right, and it's important for an A&R person to pay attention to all of that information that's available to them. But one of the things I used to preach to the younger A&R people I was working with, who were great, was also develop more traditional A&R skills, which is developing an instinct about if an artist is actually a potential superstar? Do they have that thing about them when they walk in the room and everybody just can't take their eyes off of them and everybody wants to hear what they say and want to dress like them? You know what I mean? Do they have that thing about them? That's, just like that. There's always that kid in your high school that you're jealous of because like everybody is just can't take their eyes off of them. That's who Adele is. That's who Beyonce is. And they are those type of people, right? They're magnetic. You don't even know why they're so magnetic. Sometimes it's because they're gorgeous like Beyonce, but sometimes it's Ed Sheeran. And he's magnetic. I mean, he's not like the homecoming king. He's like the nerdy guy that plays acoustic guitar in the corner, and at the
he's
coffee
that blind
shop.
Side.
Yeah. It could be Bruno Mars, the little dude, the little Hawaiian dude, but who's just massively talented. But these people have a magnetism, so it's developing the ability to recognize that early on, or the potential for that early on. Also, recognizing exceptional talent, like knowing when somebody's a good singer, but knowing when somebody's a great singer or a great rapper or a great writer. You know what I mean? And then also knowing what producers and what songwriters to get to work with them or for them. The image and how should the image, who should shoot the photographs, like what's the image, what's the brand. Developing all of that, it's more traditional A&R skills is really important because the research stuff, you can really just write an algorithm to do most of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it comes down to some key fundamentals that I think it's like something like that old school type of A&R skills to have is very important. You talk to a pilot, we have all this great instrumentation, or even a driver. It's like we have GPS now, and you have all these great things, but it will always pay off to really know how to fly a plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily trust your instruments, but assess your situation that you're in and know how to, navigate through that. And another thing that you mentioned, extreme talent, or some people that just they just have that intangible, that je ne sais quoi, But there's also something to be said for people who work hard, just hard workers. Because I don't know a lot of the people that I'm seeing on television, hearing on the radio and stuff. And to me, it's just not my cup of tea. I don't care for the music or whatever. But I look at them and say, they must be a hard worker.
Yeah.
And you see them in interviews, or even when the cameras are off and they're not in their element, you just kind of, I love looking at people, and I like to see how people treat other people. It's like, how are you treating the catering guy?
Yeah.
How are you treating the guy that just opened the door for you? Did you say thank you? I think there's something to be said about working hard, because I have known some very talented people that, we were talking a little earlier, that I knew so talented, but just didn't have the attitude, the right attitude. Sure. Had the charisma.
Yeah.
Once they turned it on, everyone flocked to this person. They liked them and all that stuff. But the work ethic was a little off. Yeah. And then when all that stuff was off, working with that person, it's like, no, you're difficult to work with. And to that, there's so much talent out there.
Sure.
And now that talent's being seen because of technology,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And one of the things I say to a lot of the artists I work with on that note is, I will use myself as an example. Like in Color Me Bad, I wasn't the main singer in the group. I was not a good dancer at all. I wasn't the best looking guy in the group. But I worked hard and I was really ambitious. And after Color Me Bad, I became a writer and a producer. I wrote the Color Me Bad songs with the other guys. And I just never accepted failure as an option. You just like, no, I love this too much. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And it means I had to work really hard. It helps when you're passionate about something. Like if you do something you love in your life, you never work a day in your life. Yeah, I love that saying.
In fact, you shared a story with me earlier. We went out to was it Wildflower? Mm-hmm. And got the crack cookie.
Yeah,
that was good. But you told me the story, and see, nowadays you have social media, so it's common. That's how I got discovered. I put up a YouTube video and everything.
Yeah.
And so saw my video that I posted. But your story about, you got the opportunity to work with Kool and the Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And how you got in contact, like I said, how did that happen? And then you told me, like, your method, your system that you had.
Well, I tell you, like, we started off in high school. The other three guys in the group, we all went to high school together. And in freshman year, my best friend Mark was in the group with these guys. I wasn't singing with them yet. and they sang this Levi's 501 Blues commercial for our talent show at our school, which is like basically like Showtime at the Apollo. Like our school would boo you as soon as you weren't good. And they killed it. And I was like, oh man, I want in on that. And I knew 2 of the guys were leaving. So like Mark brought me in and the other 2 guys left.
And he was already trying to get you to be in it?
Yeah. And so then I was in it, and it was 4 of us. And I was a bit musical already because my dad was the cellist in the symphony and my mom was a band teacher. Like music was really in my family, so music wasn't hard for me to kind of get into.
Yeah, you had a support system.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we started doing talent shows around, and we would always win the talent show, but it's just like being the biggest fish in a really small pond. And we wanted
the flies.
Yeah, we wanted to figure out like how can we get out of here, and there didn't seem to be many options, and none of us came from money. So
and we're talking about Oklahoma
City. Yeah.
Okay.
So we
not a big R&B hotbed at the time, would you say?
Well,
it's not the first place I think of.
There had never been a successful pop or R&B act out of Oklahoma City ever before us.
Ever,
just country.
Exactly. Okay, and we're talking late '80s at this time,
this
right?
This is like mid
'80s
when we were together. Yeah. So we started with Ronnie Millsap. We were at the downtown kind of venue called the Myriad back then, and Ronnie Millsap was just finished a concert. And we just saw him walking like to an interview or something. We're like, oh, let's just go sing for him. We sang for him and he loved it, And we're like, man. And it was like a light bulb. Like, we could do this every time somebody comes into town. Like, how could we get to them? Like, we just find out where they're staying. There's only 2 nice hotels in the whole city. It's either Lloyd Noble Center in Norman or it's the Marriott in Oklahoma City, right? So we would the next one I think was Sheila E. And then we started we did Tony and the OJs, and then it was saw Bon Jovi at a movie theater. This is when they were massive,
and that's the story that kind of got is well known.
Yeah,
the movie theater.
We sang for him, and he let us open for them in their concert the next night.
So you saw him at the movie theater, and then when someone was working there, they called you guys up. Yeah, and this is before cell phones.
Yeah,
so they ran to the phone booth or the work phone.
One of our guys worked at the movie theater,
right?
And so he called us on the regular line. Yeah, back then it was like.
Right, and hopefully you're home.
And I got the car. I went and drive and get the other guys, but. Well, we did that, yeah.
Rewinding back to that, see, you skimmed over, all, Sheila E., Tony. You made such a great point. It's so simple, but it was gangster. It's like, well, all of these artists, they come into town, they have to get from the bus to the hotel room.
Right, yeah.
I thought,
and we'll be standing. We didn't need instruments. We sang a cappella harmony doo-wop, so we could just sing for him as soon as they got. And like our lead singer Brian, we all admit was the guy.
Oh,
like
that
he
dude.
Was, but he was also relentless whenever he would want to sing for them. Like with John Bon Jovi, for instance. Like we sat through the movie and he was with his girlfriend, and Brian calls him John. Hey John, can we sing for you? And he's like, guys, no. It's my day off, man. Come on. I'm with my girl. Like, you're gonna make a scene here at the mall. Like, I'm trying to get out of here. And oh man, come on, man, please just give us 2 minutes, man. I promise we'll be good. And it's like, you got a tape or something? No, man, we don't have a tape, man. Come on, let us please sing for you. It's like, guys, this is my day off, man. He's getting mad. This is my girlfriend. It's my days off. And then Brian goes, you know how hard it is to live in a place like Oklahoma City? There's nobody here that can help us. We're really good, I promise. Please just let us. I know you were in this before at some time in your life. Please let us sing for you.
Way to go.
Yeah, and he was relentless,
man. Way to go.
And John Bon Jovi's like, all right, fine, go. And we sang for it, and then he was like, how'd you guys like to do that in front of 15,000 people tomorrow night?
Oh my God.
And that's still one of the most thrilling moments of the whole journey. But I mean, listen, man, we did this to everybody. And we did that with Kool and the gang. And Kool's cousin, who was their tour manager, ended up becoming one of our managers. And we eventually moved to New York with his partner and slept on the floor for a year and a half until we finally got signed and came out, But we even did it after we got a record deal. We sang for Miles Davis on the street. We sang for James Brown at his birthday party for an hour.
Wait, this is after the record deal?
This is after.
But before your first single?
James Brown, we were already starting to get famous, right? But we still did that same singing a cappella thing. We went to James Brown's birthday party. He didn't care about our little puny success. He's
right.
James Brown,
Sure.
But
so Sex You Up already had dropped.
Yeah.
And it was already.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like we knew, like, I think it was Oh What a Night by the Dells. Like we were really versed in old doo-wop songs.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happened like James Brown that was his time.
Mm-hmm.
So he loved doo-wop and he knew all the songs. So when we sang Oh What a Night, he was like, yo, hold up, do that again. And then he'd sing the lead and he'd be trading back and forth with Brian. We did like an hour. Like we did like Blue Moon and Who Wrote the Book of Love and You're a Nag and like all the doo-wop stuff that we knew, you know, like Cupid, Sam Cooke.
And he was a known perfectionist.
Yeah.
So the fact that you got his attention through music,
crazy.
Wow, what a feeling that must have been.
I remember another time
Did it ever hit you like, damn, we're jamming with James Brown right now?
That stuff is
course,
out
right?
of body. You know, like Mark, my best friend growing up, we still talk to each other like, did we really sing for Miles Davis on the street? Like, did we really do that? Another time we were doing like, this is after we were already, you know, famous. We had a hit album and we were working on a doo-wop song for our second album called Tonight Tonight. It was a remake. And it was at this place called the New Hit Factory in New York. And Billy Joel walks in and he's like, I love that. That's my song. And he's like, guys, I'm struggling with this song over here next door. You want to come over and help me out with it? Like if you want to like maybe write the chorus, arrange backgrounds and stuff. And we were like, what?
Billy Joel.
Yeah.
The piano man.
We went over there and like we gave it our best shot. It was okay. What we did was okay. And it came out as a single. It was called All About Soul. So we got to write with Billy Joel. But the coolest, talking about out-of-body experiences, the coolest part of that was he had this song called The Longest Time that we sang all the time in high school. You know, I don't even know, hundreds of times probably we sang that song. And he was like,
that was one of your showstoppers.
Yeah,
huh?
he's like, do you know any of my songs? And we're like, oh, yeah. And he was like, oh, wait. And he called
1986.
Yeah, and he called Christy Brinkley, who was his wife at the time, who was like all of our biggest crush growing up because she was on vacation, right?
Sure.
He called her and he's like, hey, babe, listen to this. And he sang it with us. So we sang the backgrounds and he sang the lead. And I just remember I'm singing and I'm watching him like, is this happening? I'm like, oh, crap, concentrate, Sam. Like, don't forget your part. You know?
Hit the notes.
Those experiences, you know, when they happen at the right time in your life, you know, like when you're 21 years old and you're sitting there singing with Billy Joel or James Brown or
people
Miles
you grew
Davis,
up with.
like that are kind of almost gods to you, you know, growing up. That's like, you know, the older you get, the less that happens because you don't see things the same way, you know. When you're young, in the way that you kind of idolize those older artists, it's that was like probably maybe my favorite part of the journey was getting to meet those type of people and talk with them and sing with them. And
well, those kind of moments didn't necessarily end for you. I mean, it may have changed because moving on from Color Me Bad, and I'd like to revisit because I got a lot of questions. I loved you guys. I mean, I remember hearing the song "I Want to Sex You Up," and it was either the first or second track off New Jack City. Do you remember which one?
One second, I got the here, right? Let's see. It was number 8.
It was number 8.
Let me tell you, man.
Okay, well, yeah. What were the first two?
The first two were
Because I liked tracks.
I'm Dreaming. No, it was Ice-T, New Jack Hustler.
New Jack Hustler, and I'm Christopher Williams.
Yep. That was supposed to be our song. I'm Dreaming was supposed to be our song.
What?
Yeah, so our A&R person, her name was Cassandra Mills, and she signed us based on a song that we wrote called I Adore Me More. And then, you know, New Jack City, and they were just going to, the record company we signed to was called Giant Records, with this legend Irving Azoff's label. And Cassandra was the A&R person that signed us, bless her. And she said we were going to Oklahoma City for the holidays because we had been in New York struggling for like a year and a half by the time we were signed. So we went to Oklahoma City. So she sent this guy, Stanley Brown, who did I'm Dreaming, to play it for us, and she wanted us to do that song. But thank God this other guy, Gary Harris, who's the guy behind D'Angelo, who's the guy that like was early hip hop, like really important stuff, right? He,
now, when you say the guy behind him,
A&R, going back to A&R.
Okay.
And so he sent this guy, Dr. Freeze, to Oklahoma with Stanley Brown. And Dr. Freeze is kind of an introvert. You know, he's like a shy guy, but he was wearing a hat. He was wearing a hat that said Freeze on it. And he was just sitting there, you know, and Stanley Brown's playing I'm Dreaming. And I was just thinking, like, I mean, it's a cool song, but I don't think it's us.
Right.
Like, we were like, we wanted to, like, more doo-wop type of thing, right? Like,
Okay.
we were trying to put harmony into it. And, like, quite honestly, we didn't want to dance too much, so we wanted to, like, sing.
Wait, you guys didn't want to dance?
No, man.
Really?
I mean, I was a terrible
Wow.
dancer, so I'll speak for myself. I didn't want to dance. I wanted to sing, right?
You were terrible.
So we, anyway, I saw Freeze, and we had been listening to BBD, and we knew like Dr. Freeze and Spider-Man did Poison and a lot of that album. So I asked him, I'm like, "Are you Dr. Freeze?" And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What? What are you doing here?"
Just
you know?
didn't you?
He was
No
like,
clue.
"Oh man, Gary, this guy Gary Harris, he just passed this year. Rest in peace." He said, "Gary, man, he told me he wanted me to come and play you a couple tracks, for New Jack City." I was like, "Yeah, let's hear it." And he played the track for "I Want to Sex You Up," and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, please, can we do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." So I took it and I wrote like an idea in the car, and then I took it to the guys, and then they helped me kind of flesh it out, and we brought it back to Dr. Freeze, and like, you know, we put it together with him. And
So was the melody already in place, or did you guys tweak it your own way, the harmonies?
Man, it's a long story.
Because that's kind of like your sound. To this day.
We did a lot of it, and Freeze did a lot of it. It was a
Okay.
true collaboration
Okay.
for sure. And then, and you know, like, we did the song, and like, honestly, two of the guys in the group didn't like it. Mark and I loved it, and like our manager Miles thought maybe he loved it, and then everybody around us didn't like it. Like, nobody around us liked the song. In fact, it was like a common theme. You guys are going to kill your career if you put that out first.
Oh, wow.
You know? And then it was Kool from Kool and the Gang's wife heard it, and she was like, "That's my song," you know? And I was like, finally, I think I'm crazy here. Like, I think it's so good, you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
And like, so they were like, "Well, we're going to put it out on the soundtrack, and, you know, and then we'll figure out what we're going to put out on you guys. It's not going to be a single on the soundtrack, right? It's just going to be on there, and we'll get it in the movie. It'll be a good first look." And they put out Christopher Williams' "I'm Dreaming" first. And
Solid
like,
song.
It's almost like everybody's looking at us like we just made a big mistake. Like, you guys could have had that song, and it's the first single.
Chris did a great job
Killed
with it, though.
Killed
Yeah.
it. And then and they put another song out too. Forgot what the other one was. Oh, it was "For the Love of Money," I think. It was like Levert and the OJs
Yeah.
or something.
No,
Or
Levert,
yeah.
yeah.
And so anyway, but
was
the
solid.
song had like this great scene in the movie, and radio just started playing it out
Yeah.
of nowhere. And it was Kiss FM in New York, and New Orleans had a station there. Like, those were some of the early stations, and it just took off.
Scene changed my life.
Dude, it was like number one in New York radio for like forever. Like, we would just turn on it would be on. And like, all of a sudden, everybody that didn't like the song loved it, you know?
Real, they flipped.
And it was like a real learning experience for me to just trust instinct. Trust your instincts. Like, if you feel that excited, like, you know something's, then do it. All your friends and everybody around you, it's great if they like it, but it doesn't mean they're right. You know what I mean? And I think some people think in order to put a song out, you got to make sure every single person you play it for loves it. It's not the case. It's really not. There's so many variables. And one of the few things you can probably trust is your instinct if you developed it, right? If your instinct has been developed. So that's something I preach to a lot of younger artists and writers and stuff, is developing your instinct, listening to a lot of music. And if you're a contemporary artist, you need to listen to contemporary music to the point that you know where the wavelength is and you know where it's going to go.
Okay, well, to that point, isn't there something to be said about stepping outside of your comfort zone and listening to things that on any given day I wouldn't normally listen to this, but
Absolutely. I mean, I think by definition, an artist has to keep an open mind. But at the end of the day, it's your instinct. That's all you got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, you're just blind.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you don't know where you're going. And maybe you're wrong, maybe you're right. But if you develop your instinct, you can trust it.
Yeah, and I mean, even to that, even if, let's say, okay, going back to Sex You Up, if you have such a developed instinct, I mean, that was obviously a big part in you developing your instinct and being confirmed on that. But when artists, when they have something written for them on paper, not my thing. But then when they take it home and they create, like for instance, just recently, my wife and I, we were talking about this big Quincy Jones interview that just came out.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like, ooh, okay, he's getting up there. He's like, hey, he doesn't care anymore, you know? And, but we were just talking about this weekend. It's like, you know, someone like Michael Jackson, you know, rest in peace, great artist, who can argue that? But it's like throughout his life, he always had writing credits. And going off of what Quincy Jones is saying, it's like, yeah, he kind of implies that he didn't really have his hand on some things.
Right.
That being said, neither here nor there, it doesn't really take away. But we were just talking about how much of some of these songs did he actually write, and how much of it was his charisma that just brought these songs and gave these songs life.
See, I think what it was, I mean, I never worked with Michael Jackson. You know, as an artist, I hold him in high regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a lot to do with the creative process. You know, when you hear like the anniversary issue of Off the Wall, it has like his demo with Janet,
yeah,
and I think maybe it was Randy or somebody that's they're playing on pots and pans, and
right?
You can see like the guys definitely contributed.
Sure.
I think whenever Quincy Jones said he was very Machiavellian, what he probably, the way I took it was that he paid attention to what was going on, and he wasn't afraid to steal, like the creatively steal, right? The truth is, it's like everybody does that. That's art. That's what music. I mean, Picasso said it. You know, that he would walk around the market where the young artists were and see what they were all doing, looking for inspiration for himself. You know what I mean? We feed off of each other when we make art. You know, it's not like it's coming out of a complete vacuum. It's not. It's coming from everything that's going on around you. Why else does so much music that comes out in the same era all sound so similar when you listen back to it 10, 15, 20 years later?
Well, here's a question for you, Sam. I mean, see the word steal, how about influenced? Because that whole thing that went on with, what's his name? I know you want it.
Blurred Lines. Robin Thicke. So
it's like, I don't hear the stealing. Like,
nobody thinks that should have. Nobody in music thinks that should have happened. But the problem is, it was a key mess up by Robin Thicke. In an interview, he said that they were listening to Marvin Gaye, Got to Give It Up, and they decided they were going to try to make something like it.
Okay.
So when he said that, right, that was where he messed up. Because then the jury is not musicians. They're not experienced publishing, you know, people. They're hearing, what they're hearing is like, oh, I stole that from him, you know? Because they don't understand, like, that's what everybody does.
I just even hearing that, if that was the quote, outside of, so I decided to take that and use it. I mean, I translate that as I was influenced.
Yeah, I want to do something like that.
Influenced.
It feels like that. Nobody's done that for a long time, and we could take that groove. By the way, that groove is used 1,000 times. Like, it's not the only time anybody did a calypso groove like that with an R&B song, you know? Like,
insane.
It's ridiculous.
I was shocked when I heard what happened.
I don't think Marvin Gaye himself would have sued.
No.
I think he understands
the creative process.
Yeah, the process and the spirit of the whole thing, you know? I've never sued anybody. I've had people put stuff out that was really similar to stuff that I'd done. I decided not to because,
right.
You know, I just don't. It doesn't feel like the thing to do, man. It's just like we're all in this together, and I feel like music is supposed to be communal. Like that's how it started, with people singing around a fire, dancing around a fire in a tribal fashion, right? And that's why it still unites and connects us the way that it does. So it you know, art and business don't always make a great marriage.
No, just that dynamic seems like it could be the most frustrating when you get the bean counters involved in the whole creative process. And I mean, I guess that could be said across any kind of plane and format, technology, music, movies. And I think kind of going back to what we were talking about briefly with the Black Panther movie, it's like on the front end, it's a great movie. It's a great superhero movie. And if some people say, it's like any other superhero movie, I would even say fair enough. But it's under the hood of that movie, the behind the scenes of what makes that movie, I think, so important.
Yeah.
And all of the nuance and the messaging behind that of, And the bottom line is how entertainment, the arts, influence our culture. Sure. And our culture is what we create laws and legislation off of, religions. And it's like, it influences how we live on every fabric.
Well, the thing I love, like Ryan Coogler being the director, right? And it being a movie about a black superhero with the African origin, and it's being made in 2018, right? What you're talking about, all the little intricacies, all the little subtleties that are right down to how somebody's hair is styled, right down to, what color the skin is of the beauty with Lupita in there, right? Like, it's like, she's gorgeous, but we've never seen a movie where that's the vixen before, right? Like, and it's so refreshing. And, even with the bad guy, Killmonger, you could kind of understand where he was coming from, right?
You could relate.
Yeah.
He's not pure evil. It's like, no, I could explain why he's acting that way.
Can I tell you my one big problem with the movie?
All right, is this spoilers?
This doesn't make it.
Do we need to warn anyone for spoilers?
Warn for spoilers.
Okay, so plug your ears. Give us about 90 seconds.
But if anybody wanted to see it by now, they'd have seen it.
That's true, especially by the time this is out. That's true.
But by the way, this didn't make me not love the movie. I genuinely love the movie. Problem I had was it felt like the part of the concept of what's the name? What's the name of the kingdom again?
Wakanda?
Wakanda, thank you.
Forever.
Wakanda is like the exception to what had happened in a lot of other African kingdoms, like because they've actually handled things the right way. Well, first of all, they had the purple stuff. Can't think of what it was called.
Vibranium.
Man, you're good. They had vibranium, right? And then they kept themselves hidden, and they've actually flourished as a culture. And part of what it's saying, like, what if Africa was allowed to flourish? Uninterrupted by everything that happened, especially from foreign invaders. But there's a problem it was exposed right away. Like, you can't choose your leader based on a battle, because then all you're going to end up as a leader is the guy who's the best fighter, or the girl who's the best fighter. That doesn't make him a good leader.
Oh my God.
And that guy would have driven him right into the ground, right? So that was a big hole for me, because you got all this other stuff figured out, and you got this amazing kingdom, everything, but that's how you choose your leaders.
Oh man, that's a great point. And you know what? That exact mentality I use. Martial arts is a really big part of my life.
Sure.
And I always use exactly what you're talking about with the legacy and identity of Bruce Lee. It's like everyone knows Bruce Lee, and that's like they're always. Hey, I like just off of a goof. I ask people, who do you think would win between, let's say, an Anderson Silva, someone who is a legitimate superhero badass who does in the UFC, one of the greatest who's ever done it in the UFC, right? I ask people who don't really follow it, how do you think Bruce Lee would do against Anderson Silva? Oh, Bruce Lee would win. It's like, no. Based off of what? No one's ever seen, but it's kind of like a rehearsed behavior that people always think Bruce Lee is the man. I was like, no. Bruce Lee was great. Make no mistake about it. He was groundbreaking. He was progressive. He was just, he is a great a symbol of the martial arts and the fighting arts. But to me, it's a bastardization of what his legacy is if you base it off of his ability to beat up other people.
Right.
It's like, okay, someone comes along and they beat him up. Does that just wash away everything he stood for?
Because Bruce Lee is Elvis Presley. He's Bob Marley.
Yeah.
He's Michael Jackson. He's a superstar. That's what he was. And he's smart, and he was a businessman. And he was brand. And he was aware of all of that. That's how he influenced culture that way.
Right. He transcends just fighting.
I'm not even like a martial arts. I've never done martial arts that much, and I was obsessed with Bruce Lee, as a kid.
Right.
And I'm coming in like 10 years after his heyday. And me and all my friends, we would get like the yellow suit with the black stripe down.
The Kung Fu shoes.
Yeah, what was that? A6 Tiger or something like that. It's just like, and the other thing about the movie is, if the leader is the person that's the best fighter, they said the best fighter was the general, which was the woman. Why isn't she the leader? They said that twice in the movie, that you're the best warrior. Well, if that's what the leadership is based on, right? A fight decides who should be the leader, then why isn't she the leader?
Oh, Thanks for ruining it now.
Sorry, but see, I think they got caught up a little bit in the PC-ness of, making the women powerful too, and they didn't realize they made a woman more powerful than everybody.
I gotta watch
else,
it again. How many times have you seen it?
So she should be.
I'm gonna watch it again. I've only seen it once right now. My one of my best friends, he saw it before I even had a chance to see it the first time. He called me up in the middle of the week. Dude, just got done seeing it again. It's so good. You got to see it.
It is so good. It was so good. And in order for me to think on that level about a movie, it tells you how good the movie is. Because it's like, you want it to be perfect. You want to look at every little thing.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to look out for that. So they said that, huh? You're our greatest warrior,
twice.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, why?
I'm pretty sure it's twice. I remember at least
they said it twice. Well, I'm going to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Swinging it back to music. You got to sing for James Brown, or with James Brown. You got to sing with Billy Joel, and you called up Christy Brinkley on the phone. That's great. You're working with legends. Now, kind of fast forward through your career, Color Me Bad at some point disbanded.
Yeah.
What happened there? Is it the landscape of the music industry, like the sound changed? Everyone wanted to do different projects?
We had to take responsibility for part of why it didn't work. Like, we had this huge first album. We had 3 number ones, and it sold 6 million albums. And it was a time of change in music.
By the way, I like that. It's the follow-up song, Time and Chance.
Time and Chance,
Time
right.
and Chance.
So with that song, we got that wrong. That was wrong. We were trying to be too, it wasn't just us, it was everybody around us, but we were like trying to go, because we started with I Wanna Sex You Up, which was very R&B, and we tried to kind of go back to that, and we worked with DJ Pooh, who's amazing. But,
it sounded very West Coast. Well, it sounded West Coast. The video was West Coast.
But it was not authentic to who we were.
Okay.
And that was the part I think people could see through, and that's why it didn't resonate. So although the song came an R&B hit, I think it went number 2.
Okay.
It didn't hit in the mainstream, and we lost so much momentum. And we continued to have some hits around the world, and we had a couple of radio hits, but we never got back to that level. And Boyz II Men basically
picked up the mantle,
collaborated us at that point, And that music was amazing. I was a fan even then. But, it just got to the point where, you're not hitting as much in the United States. So you're going to Southeast Asia all the time. And I'm spending all my time in Guam and, Manila and Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. And then my son was born. And I was just like, I don't want to do this, man. This is not. And you're singing the same songs all the time over and over. And I was really more of a writer. I wanted to create new things. And so I was always trying to create in every little off chance I had, right? Mm-hmm. And I met this guy, Louis Biancanello, during a Color Me Bad session, who did one of the tracks I loved. And I said, can we write some stuff? And so we started writing together. And I would just go and write with him every time we had a break. Mm-hmm. And then we were starting to write some really good songs. And we got on this, I got this call from this A&R person in Dallas, Texas. So when you're from Oklahoma City and you hear a record company person from Dallas, you don't get too excited, because everybody I always dealt with from that area of the country that said they were in the music business ended up being really small time and really dishonest. So I only took it with a grain of salt, but she sounded really nice. And she's like, I got this girl, I heard your song, I want you to record her on it, and her daddy's gonna come out with her, and she had that country accent like that. And so I told my partner Louis, let's just see what it is. And then the girl got off the plane. It was Jessica Simpson, and I saw her. She was so gorgeous, it was ridiculous. I just called my partner. I'm like, yeah, no, we gotta make this work. We gotta make this work. Right. So we did that, and it was good. And the song came out great, and it was gonna be on her album. And we were just continuing to work. At this point, KT from our group quit the group. He just had it kind of the same wavelength I was on. Okay. So I quit the same day.
So the passion of the group is slowly dissolved.
I just didn't want to do that lifestyle anymore. It was 1998 Halloween. That's when I quit on Halloween. Oh, wow. And I felt so good after I did it.
Really?
Yeah, I felt really good. Yeah. And so I knew that was the right thing to do. I don't mean to say that I don't cherish that time in my life. Sure. The group, I do. It was great, and I love those guys, but it was just time.
Probably better for everyone involved.
I wanted to be with my son, my baby son, and with my wife, So I quit, and then immediately good things started happening. And then we got a call from Tommy Mottola, who was the head of Sony, and he heard our song. He's like, "That's the first single. I want to make that her first single." We're like, "Wait, what?" And then he's like, "I want to give you guys a production deal. I want you guys to work for me. I don't want you to work for anybody else."
Wow.
And he threw a lot of money at us.
And Tommy Mottola is pretty well known, isn't he?
Oh man, listen. Maybe some people have bad stories about him. I don't know. My experience with him, I absolutely love the guy. He put his money where his mouth was. He actually had great instincts about singers, about songs. Really,
well, he already had a track record at that time.
This guy was so good at it. I've really never seen anybody better. I don't think on that kind of level. And then this guy David Massey, who's also a really important character in my life, who was the general manager of Epic under Tommy at the time. He set up a meeting for us with this girl named Anastacia, and we did a song called "I'm Out of Love" with her, and it went #1 in the world for the year, and it didn't even hit the United States. Weird.
Wow.
We sold like, all in all, we ended up selling like 20 million albums with her, and Jessica Simpson went #2. And then we were kind of off and running. And then we got a song on Celine Dion. And like that was the thing, man, because she was selling like 20 million copies at the time. And we were just like,
and that's what I wanted
so hard to get on her, man. Like the song for Jessica was written for Celine.
Oh, wow.
Oh, we had written like 30 songs for Celine.
Oh, so the path leading to Celine, until you eventually got to work with her, you were trying to work with her and you were kind of giving up. Oh, wow.
And then, so we got that on Celine, and then just started getting to work with everybody, and like that time with Tommy was great. And even after that, we started a kind of a fraternity of younger writers and producers with us called the Runaways. So that was Lewis and me with our friend Wayne Wilkins, and we brought in Ryan Tedder, who would end up being really famous with One Republic, and Rico Love, who went on to be a really big urban songwriter with like Usher and Beyonce and all that. So it was the 5 of us, and we started doing a lot of records together and had another really nice run doing that. And then at a certain point, ironically, I started wanting to I was just writing and producing all the time, but I missed the other part of it. Like I wanted to be part of developing the act. I wanted to be part of getting them out there on the road, and you know what I mean?
Building it,
exactly. From the beginning. I think that's who I kind of am in my nature. I'm a builder.
Okay.
I like doing that. I don't like cheating, waiting for something to work and then jumping on and saying,
like when LeBron trades himself to the Heat,
right? Or Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors, who just had the best record in history of the NBA. Like you get no credit for that at all. And I'm not saying Kevin Durant's not amazing.
No.
And me being from Oklahoma City might have something to do with this too.
Right.
But you know what? To me, he robbed a lot of his legacy there. Like you can get points for that.
Yeah.
You get points when you're Michael Jordan and you take the Bulls from being nothing to winning 6 championships.
Yeah.
Or when you're Kobe and you stay in LA after Shaq is gone, and then you win 3 more.
Or when you're Shaq, you travel to these other teams and win.
Right. Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
So I don't like that. I like to be built. I like to build it and do it honestly. You know what I mean? And I wanted to get into that more. So I started getting into developing artists and failed a couple times doing it with some really good artists. And it was a real learning curve. And that's why I ended up taking the A&R gig too, because I felt like I needed the education of working for a record company. And the guy that hired me was David Massey, the same guy I did the Anastacia stuff with. And that was a great experience for me because I got to be a part of building, be a part of that company building artists like Shawn Mendes and getting Nick Jonas turned back around and getting Demi Lovato back on track, and Mike Posner having a new thing, and all these other people in the company each had a lot to do with that, but I was kind of in an overseer position, and it was just a great education for me. And learning from somebody like David Massey or like Wendy Goldstein, who was an A&R person for Republic, which was our sister company, and a lot of the younger people, like watching them and being excited about what they were doing, like Ziggy, who found Shawn Mendes, or Zeke, who was working on Nick Jonas and Demi Lovato. Like I just learned so much seeing how the machine works on the inside and seeing how much politics there are.
Yeah, so now you're on the other side.
Yeah.
You're on the other side of the table of these discussions.
And so now, like post-Island, I'm having so much fun because I'm working with these incredible young artists who I think are going to be famous here in the next year. I think so. One's got Lucky Day and one's Bobby Andinoff. And I know so much more about it. and how to build the team around them and how to structure the deals and how to choose the partners, you know what I mean? And how to manage the expectations. And I know that I need to be patient, and I know we got to do the heavy lifting. You don't look for the shortcuts and the cheats. Those are nice, but they don't take place of building the foundation.
And they don't last.
Right.
I mean, historically speaking, those little quick,
easy come, easy go thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, at this point, I know we got to wrap it up soon because I know you have things to go. But from this point on, where do you see yourself? I mean, what's next for you, Sam? Do you ever get the itch to want to be on stage and perform anymore?
No. I never was comfortable being on stage, and I think I always preach self-honesty to everybody. It drives me crazy. Like I just worked on that show, The Four, right, as a music supervisor. So I was one of the people choosing who would go on the show and helping them choose what song they were going to sing and just kind of overseeing that. And when we were going through the audition process, most of the people aren't good enough to be on the show, just to be real. And sometimes the most maddening part of it for me was like looking at them and saying, well, you're actually really good at that one thing, but what are you doing this for? You're not going to win on this show. Like, I've looked in the mirror. Have you put yourself on camera? Like, aren't you aware of that? And I realized most people aren't. Maybe they're too scared to be. But you have to be honest with yourself about what you're good at and what you're not good at. So number one, you can improve on what you're not good at. But at a certain point, like, you got to be honest about your limitations too. Like if you're 5'8", you're probably not going to be in the NBA.
Chances are, unless you're
Muggsy
Muggsy
Bogues. Yeah, maybe Spud Webb.
Right.
Yeah,
Dave Robinson.
Right,
Shout out.
And those guys had some serious verticals.
Sure, I mean, but they're the exceptions.
Right.
They're the outliers.
So, like, be honest with yourself. And I've always been honest with myself. I never thought I was like a singing star. I was good enough to be in the group.
You enjoyed it when it was your time.
Totally, but I don't have those kind of chops as a singer, and I'm just not that good of a dancer. I don't feel like I'm that good looking to do all that. Like, I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine. I accept who I am. And I also know what I'm great at. Like, I can write a hit song like anybody. I know I can produce. I know I can recognize and bring out the best out of other people as well as anybody I've ever seen do.
And that just brings, that in itself brings out fulfillment, right?
Totally. And I love it because, we all need each other anyway. And I feel like we're all a part of each other anyway. So the other thing I'm really passionate about that I'm working on right now is I've been writing screenplays for about 5 years now, and there's one called Lost Ones that's like I think it's great, and we're really moving down the line about maybe getting it made. And I wrote all the songs with my partner Lewis, and they're great, and it like takes place in the early 60s, so it's kind of right in our sweet spot of what we love to write, the songs, and the songs are great. I think the screenplay is great, and we have some really good people behind it now. So that's like a new territory for me.
Screenwriting?
Yeah, I'm kind of like, trying to get a movie made.
Oh, okay.
So it's like jumping off the ledge and letting my wings develop on the way down, like Kurt Vonnegut says.
Right.
And
right.
I
jump
love
first
it.
and look later.
But you know what? It brings back a little of that feeling of running and chasing buses down and singing for people.
Yeah,
it feels like that a little bit again, and so it keeps me young. It keeps me alive, and I'm passionate about it. And I love movies, and I always have. And I'm very OCD about details, and movies are like a good thing for somebody like that. So I've really enjoyed like doing the screenwriting and trying to get a movie made. So that's kind of
the next step,
the next thing
evolution
that I'm going into. And I also really fascinated with that being a vehicle for music and not going the traditional way of like depending on radio to break something. But what if I like La La Land or like The Greatest Showman recently, who've both done really well, and the streaming, by the way, is really high on those. That kind of model is really interesting to me because now we have a new way to introduce music, and I can do music that I love. It's an excuse to do original music that's 60s soul.
Dude. So yeah, that would be the era, the 60s.
Yeah.
I just got done and I kicked myself for it because it was probably about a year and a half since I watched it. I saw it when it first came out, but Netflix, you speak of, writing something. Netflix is crushing right now with their long forms, and we just watched The Get Down. We binged it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you couldn't shut me up for a month.
Right. Yeah.
After binging on that, it took about 2 weeks to watch both seasons. But the era, and I'm sure you could appreciate it because we're roughly around the same age, but just it's fiction with a true setting.
Yeah.
And the way it was filmed.
And Baz Luhrmann kind of
did his
flourishes.
thing.
Yeah.
Did his thing. And it's like, man, imagine, I don't know what your project looks like in, visually, but I mean, something like that. You speak of, mending the divide with movie and music, and you put it together to like a La La Land. And those are, to me, because it's fresh on the head, man, something like a Get Down. And there's an audience for it. There's an audience that just eats that stuff up,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd love to see it. Can't wait until you
I
do
hope
it.
you get to see it.
Yeah. To see it made. Other than that, man, we definitely have to do this again.
I would love to, man.
It's been nothing but a pleasure. But I do owe you an apology for bringing you into the shark's den of the puddle.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I was in and out of that.
You were. I was bad.
Can I tell you, man? Like, I'm usually like an incredible fantasy football player. Like, I'm always like top 3, in the league. Freaking horrible, man. And that was stressing me because this is.
It was stressing you.
Yeah, my wife Tamara.
Yeah.
And so her brothers from Arizona, particularly Donnie and Rory, if you're listening, those guys talk like you can't believe, like they're 5th degree black belts at talking.
All right,
they're not the guys you want to lose to.
All right,
and they were creaming me this year, man. I don't know what it was, and then it
was a bad year. It was a bad year, sports year,
man.
Oh, and the Steelers didn't do you right. I mean,
and I'm an OU Sooners fan, so both the Steelers and Sooners almost got all the way, and then both blew it.
That's kind of worse, right?
Yeah.
Or is it? Is it worse?
I think it's worse.
It's
yeah, yeah, because it's like you just took the ride, and they both did the same thing. They were both highly efficient offensive teams, and the defenses just never came together when they needed to, and they both blew it, man. They blew it in a big way. I mean, OU was ahead 31-13 at halftime,
and favored to win.
Yeah,
they were supposed to win.
17 at halftime. And it should have been 31-10. They gave I forgot what it was, but they gave away a field goal at the end that they didn't need.
Man.
And then it just they blew it.
I'm glad I didn't turn that game off. I almost turned that game off at halftime. I walked away. It was on in the background, and I saw it.
Painful.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That's so painful. And then the Steelers losing to Jacksonville. We got behind 21-0.
So next year's a year of redemption, man. Next year's a year of redemption. If you have enough heart, never quit, championship spirit. So we expect you in our little puddle.
Oh, I don't go anywhere. Come on now.
All right. Well, Sam, it was all good, man.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
We're done.